culture loves the word millionaire. It encapsulates the idea that you are set for life. But does 1 million really mean you can sit pretty and just enjoy the ride? How long will 1 million last you in retirement? We have brought to the show our favorite and funniest personal finance speaker and author, Randall Johnson, to give us a rundown of the issues that he often encounters in his many conversations with Filipinos all over the world. Hi, Randall.
Hi, Salve.
Thank you for taking the time.
I like that funniest thing.
I know, because they said, no, that's you.
Okay.
When people are with you, they keep on laughing. But this is not a laughing matter, no. 1 million, how long will it last? An ordinary Filipino living in Metro Manila.
Well, Salve, if we live in the 70s, that's gonna last a long time.
No?
But now, it's not gonna last very much. It's just more practical. No?
Okay.
If you spend, let's say, 25,000 a month, that's roughly 300 a year. That's just good for 3 years.
That's
right?
good for
so
3
again,
years.
maybe 3 years and 3 months. So if you look at those numbers, it's not going to last you very long.
Yeah.
I mean, that's considering that lifestyle is assuming that you're healthy.
You don't have medical bills, but that's just your living
your
expense.
House is paid, stuff like
no
that.
more amortization.
No
You're
more
not
amortization.
paying for your children's education anymore.
Or your grandkids.
Or your grandkids. Oo nga.
Uso yan.
Yeah, so it's just you want to go out to the coffee shop, you want to go to movies.
Usual watch a movie, eat out from time to time, do some exercise outside. Or maybe when there's an opportunity, visit your kids maybe
once a year,
abroad or somewhere in the province, or things like that.
Pero 20 to 30,000 nga, if you really think about it, it's not a big amount of money these days.
That's pretty much living your life exacto.
Sakto lang. Hindi naman
you're not going to be a pauper. I mean, you're going to eat 3 times a day.
Yes.
Maybe a few times with the instant noodles.
Yeah.
But basically, it's not much. It's not living you're not living the dream.
I know that you mentor a lot of retirees. What's the average expense that they have here in Metro Manila? Let's talk about outside Metro Manila.
These are your usual tipong middle class, former officer or former manager. Most of them will have somewhere between 50,000 a month monthly expense. 35, 50, some would stretch about 100. Again, it's dependent on, a lot of them depends on your medical condition and the lifestyle that you want to have.
Right.
Yeah. But some of them, Salve, are still paying rent. May mga ganun,
Still, at retirement. It's horrible. And baka kasi the acquisition of a bigger house came later in life.
So it's kind of hard. No? So,
it's difficult.
It's difficult. They had a lot of kids.
But at 50 to 60, that means in less than 2 years, your 1 million is gone.
Yeah.
That's tough.
That's why we're telling people that there's such a thing as active retirement. You just can't not totally retire. If there's something that you can do,
you can keep on
retirement,
working.
Just being busy alone, it's good. Even if the income is not the same as your pre-retirement income, just getting some money during retirement is a good idea.
Right. So outside Metro Manila, what have you noticed from people
It's a little
who
lower.
retired?
It's a little lower. No? Well, depends. No? Kasi Salve, now we have the urban areas. No? If you're going to Cebu, Davao, Cagayan de Oro, it's like Metro Manila also. It's the same restaurants, the same shops you see. So medyo, it's still on the high side.
Yes.
But if you go to the more rural area or, say, Dumaguete or other places, it's a little bit lower. Pero again, the medical cost is there.
Right.
That's something I saw. Some of the medical costs, some of the medical things that they need to do, sometimes they have to go to Manila, they have to go to Cebu.
So travel expenses pa yan,
it may not be available where they are.
And the travel expenses of those who are sickly are difficult. So hindi ka na pwede mag-bus.
That's why it's so hard to compete for these things. If you have a car, then and not we live in an archipelago. Not everything can.
You have to fly or either take the ship, which is also difficult in our context. Roro.
Yeah. For some, they do it. Let's say if you're in Bohol, and you want to go to Cebu, you have to take a ship or take a Roro or whatever it's that you have to take. So.
We looked at the inflation rates within Metro Manila. It's now at, I think you have a copy.
It's higher
at
now.
3.6% in February. It's going up. But not as high as it was before when we both saw 11% double-digit inflation rates
when
before.
When we were young.
Right. When we were a lot younger. At 3.6%, if you think about inflation with the scenario now, you only have 1 million a year. How is that going to affect your retirement?
Well, number one, at 3.6%, assuming that's just saying that the goods and services that you actually use will become more expensive. So in fact, that 1 million, assuming that you compute it for 4 years, that's notwithstanding inflation.
Right.
So if you factor in inflation, it's going to make it shorter. And the fun part of inflation, we're talking about it you should go
off-cam.
Off-cam, mas masaya off-cam namin. Off-cam natin, we're saying that hey, you know, like your parents, right?
Yeah.
And we buy it. And during the low inflations, we feel that it's not low. I mean, when we pay our groceries,
it's not really 5%.
It's not, and all these things. You have to understand the limitations of computations for the CPI.
Yeah.
It's only a basket of goods and services. Most of them are food, and the weights there are decided. It's not really a good. It's a good benchmark, but you can't limit that. That's the practice of finance people is we offset a little bit. Example,
I look at it as a minimum, as a
if
minimum inflation. So you add.
Not 3%. I'd probably do my computation.
What
with
number
5.
do you? Yeah, me too. In fact, here I used 5% in computing.
Yes.
But you see, when you think about inflation in Metro Manila, even when it's 3.6% national average, maybe in Metro Manila it's going to be 5 to 6% because it's faster and our lifestyle is different.
Kasi, Salve, you have to look at where we spend our money on. Let's say, in Metro Manila, a big part of our money goes to rent, amortization, all these things, and they kind of inflate faster.
Right.
And education, for instance, if you go to bring your kids to the big schools, their education increases is faster. So when you look at your pie,
feel mo because your children are in school.
Two of them are finished. You know, I computed in the lack of this more data. No, my two daughters, I average 9.2 to 9.4% from their preschool to their college. That's 9%.
That's
increase.
9%.
Of course, there were years that are lower and high.
Okay, I just got some numbers now. I'd like to run through it with you. Outside Metro Manila, Cagayan Valley and Central Luzon have very high inflation rates. They're higher than the national average, meaning the cost of living there is a lot higher because you're actually talking about maybe 6% or 5%.
I think you have to understand what makes it more expensive for that factor. So some
and
of them
that's weird because
infrastructure.
Actually, if you look at it, in Calabarzon, the 10.8% inflation rate, alcoholic beverages and tobacco. Right? The 7.1, 7.2% are alcoholic beverages.
I think, Salve, when we do inflation, again, this is the economist in me. You have to break it down also. Remember, we increased the cost of the sin taxes.
Yes.
So that's how, of course, in the provinces, they consume a lot of these things. No? So that's as a factor. But again, those are more, you have to remove it.
You can, but you can use it when planning, in planning purposes. Because now, you just go to the cheaper
tell them to stop drinking alcohol.
Tell them to stop drinking alcohol.
That's going to solve a lot of the problems. But again, here's the thing, when we're looking at numbers, these are just numbers, they're agnostic. Doesn't mean that it's important that you know how to interpret them, you know how to use it, and you can personalize it. I mean, sin tax is not going to be an issue for me if I don't smoke and I don't drink.
Right, exactly.
Okay, and those things. But now we have the sugar and all these things.
That's
so those are problems. I mean, what's going to happen now is there's going to be inflationary pressure, and it's a factor of economics also. If the economy is more robust, inflation actually goes up talaga, whether you like it or not.
That's right.
And it's not necessarily bad, but you have to just prepare for it.
But the inflation rate for retirement.
Yeah, that's different because those things are not there.
Yes.
Pero we were talking earlier that there are things that are almost impossible to compute, like medical costs.
That's right.
Diba? I mean, medicines, doctor's rates, hospital bills. It's very, very hard to ascertain a number to that.
Even when you know your genetics, and even when you know your lifestyle and the risks that you're facing because of your lifestyle, that's already difficult. What more? It's not impossible for a person to suddenly develop a sickness that's not in the family history, diba?
Those things happen.
So how do you do it? How do you plan for that?
The whole idea is we want to be able to prepare for the worst.
Yes.
We have to. It's kind of hard because the money becomes a little bit more difficult to raise. But it's better to be safe than sorry.
Right.
Example, if you think that you only need, say, 10 million upon retirement, maybe you want to bump it up to about 15. At least there's 5 million extra. I mean, then if those things don't happen, then you have more money to leave to your kids.
Yeah.
Or like, you suddenly decide to, you live longer than, baka kala mo 75 ka lang, then 95 pala. So those things.
Some people, I once interviewed somebody, ang pinaka-retirement plan, shotgun. Para tapusin nila ang life. But that's rather
all these
dark.
computations are just numbers.
Exactly.
And we can do the computations, but there's the assumptions that we cannot have a control. Inflation alone, we cannot understand. No? If you look at our history, siyempre we're talking about, shows our age, no? Kasi umabot pa ako noong 1983.
Ano inflation ng double digit?
There was times that we go 20 plus.
Ako ba?
Maybe 30, 40, something
Mas
like that.
matanda ka pala sa akin kasi ako less than 15
No,
naman.
I did that. Things were double the price in like almost overnight. So those things happen. May not happen today, but don't expect that inflation will always be low.
And different places also have different inflation.
Also. And
So
there are certain things that you have to break down what increase.
Okay,
like,
which ones are increasing
like
faster?
Property increases faster.
Right.
And if you're in the urban area, if your lifestyle is being this kind, you gotta spend more money on that. A certain lifestyle becomes more expensive.
Electricity.
Assuming that you travel. Now that airline costs can be a little bit more
naman.
expensive. So again, those things will now also add up. So,
Do me, how much money do I need to retire?
or talking to you kanina, no? Because just for Salvi and I've been friends for many, many years. So Salvi needs somewhere between 75 to 100 million. Considering she's still young.
And that's not understating because I also told you earlier, some financial advisors naman, their problem is they estimate too much.
Yeah, too much.
The assumptions are too high.
The assumption, when you're doing retirement, Salve, assumptions is a very important thing. But again, you can only assume so much.
Right.
Like, you can't really totally rely on just the numbers. Many things can happen. You don't know, maybe your children will not be financially able.
Yes.
You might end up supporting grandkids. And I've seen that happen. And
you can't plan for
you
that.
can't plan for these
either.
things. Or somebody gets sick. Or all these things. I have a friend, yung anak niya namatay, and iniwan sa kanya yung,
kids.
so suddenly, this friend of mine, during their supposed to be more retirement, is raising
Still
a kid.
working.
So, not working, but you prepare for two persons. He did not prepare for two persons and raising a child. Because, things happen. So, those things will always be a factor. That's why it's nice to be able to start preparing for it early. You might want to be able to do, certain things that can generate income for you.
There's that other factor of one of the couple, one spouse is better financially than the other. Like Warren Buffett, he's leaving money for his wife in an index fund. So how do you plan for that also? If you go first, how do you make sure that the money for your wife lasts as long as she does?
Of course, communication is very, very important.
Yes.
At a certain point in time, you may want to involve your kids. When my father was alive, during his last few years, our kids come in, we were involved with this money, how to be able to, at a certain point, share certain information. That's very, very important. You might want to be able to, write something, say something, give your billings. And if you have a lot of money, then there's trust. You can put some money in the trust, and the trust can do that for you. It depends on your certain situations. But
that's why planning really is very important.
And I think a lot of people are allergic to planning, but if they see that if you do it early, it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be a simple one. Sometimes just writing a will, or sometimes just buying an insurance with a specific instruction. Those things can be simplified.
You've gone all over the world, Halos, talking about retirement. What's the best communication plan? What's the best trick that you've used so that people will realize, I need to do this now?
If I'm speaking to people who are Australians, Hong Kong, I just use numbers, it's good.
Okay.
But if I'm talking to Filipinos, I have to tell the stories. Stories of what's happening.
Yes.
Stories about parents not having any money, pagpapasapasahan ng anak. And you see that, we see that. We probably have relatives who do that. And it's painful.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't want to be in that situation. You also want to be able to touch their emotions. That as a parent, our obligation is to prepare our kids, not to depend on our kids.
Which is so
very,
traditionally
very traditional
Filipino.
And we think it's the right thing to do.
Yes.
Culture doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing to do.
Right.
So it's important. I said you have a choice. You can be a blessing or you can be a burden. And our goal is to prepare for our children. And our children's goal, objective, or obligation is to prepare for their
children also.
So whenever you ask money from your children, you're actually getting money from your grandkids.
That's why, because you're actually looking at the trend of prosperity in our country. The reason why we are never able to pull out of poverty is that
we're always Filipino financial planning.
We're always taking care of our parents, so our children are not taken care of, and we're always dependent on the next generation.
It becomes a problem. It's a vicious cycle. They call it money is relative. More money, more relatives. That's a problem with a lot of people. They always think their children. That's why popular posts that we make Facebook that spread out your children are not retirement funds.
Yes.
And those things, It's very common. I mean, I once talked.
Still works, huh? People still
Yeah.
listen to that.
Well, they have to. Because we also saw a trend that I think the younger people today are kind of rebelling on the idea. Why do we have to take care of our parents? You know, at the end of the day, I mean,
It doesn't sound nice, no? But they're right.
They're right.
In your conversations with so many people that you've been teaching, what's the biggest risk now that Filipinos face when it comes to planning for their future?
The biggest risk is not doing anything. The Batman principle, bahala na si Batman.
Bahala na si Batman.
I mean, everybody will always that. And they tell me, you want to be able to enjoy life. I mean, again, it goes back to the most fundamental of learning how to handle your money, saving some money at the end. Very, very basic, but needs to be taught again and again and again.
So also
it
because
gets tiring,
it gets tiring. Maybe
doing this
especially for you, I
years.
know. But even people who have some sort of financial education, for them, parang I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it next year, and then before you know it, he blinked, and then it's 10 years down the road.
Time goes fast, especially if you're busy, you're enjoying life. So a little bit of this. So coaching, shows like this, reading a nice book, and you know, attending a seminar, they're all helpful. And we've seen that it changed the lives of a lot of people.
When do people now begin to seriously start planning and saving up for retirement?
There's also an age factor. When you're 25, no amount of prodding works. But when you're in your 40s, they tend to listen more. So I noticed if I'm talking about investing, building wealth, I have a younger crowd. If we're talking about retirement, they start to, I mean, people of my age start to attend. So again, there's also
50,
an age factor.
60.
Because they're also realizing, oh, okay nga, ano,
I really need to, and it's near na.
Or I think some of them just have the realization. The good news about today is with social media, the internet, books, shows like this,
easier now.
it's opening their eyes. Even the OFWs, I travel a lot. And even them, they're now looking at many things.
It's so difficult na nga to catch you. 10 years, is it enough to start
Ideally,
investing?
it's 20. The ideal, if there's a number, I would say, I mean, of course, these are all relative numbers. If there's a good number, 20 is good. I take 10 if I did do anything. It means just you have to do more.
You have to save more, you have to invest more, maybe take in more risk, but also...
There's a problem also about shorter time. You understand that risks is relative to time as well. If I want to take a risky investment like the index or some stock market, it's very, very volatile. The longer it stays in the investment, the better it is.
Yes.
So if I have a longer time, I can actually I can take in more risk, and I don't have to put that much money to make my money grow. Now, if it's a shorter duration, the problem is I can't take that much risk. What if during retirement, 40% of the market is gone?
Oh my Lord.
Paano na yan?
Oo nga.
So again, that also is another factor. But it's a limiting factor is if I don't take too much risk, my money's not going to grow. But if I take too much money, then there's a risk. Again, that's a problem. That's a paradox.
Okay. Which is very final words before we end the show.
Oh, yeah. Prepare, enjoy life. Enjoy life, but prepare for it. You only have one life to live. Make sure it counts.
Is it possible to enjoy now and also later?
I think yes. Yes. I guess that's what we're doing. Don't spend everything, set aside money, but enjoy also life at the same time. Don't worry so much. I mean, it's no sense that you have all the money, but and there's nothing to share it. You're not enjoying it. So again, it's an issue of balance, and you just take it one day at a time. Learn a little bit, invest a little bit, save a little bit, and then do it again and again and again. And pretty much, by the time you're retiring, you're smiling because you're really, really looking forward to it.
Well, you're always smiling. Thank you so much, Randall, for coming to the show.
Thank you, Salve.